Hello, thank you for joining me for this Baling Twine project of shoulder bags. So this project, again, will be using Baling Twine. This mat right here used the whole frame, kind of like my Baling Twine mat project, which is basically what the bag is. It's the Baling Twine mat folded in half, and then more Baling Twine. This is actually 12 strands of Baling Twine used to as the handle, braided all the way around it. This bag is actually quite big and heavy. What I want to show you in this project is a couple variations of it. One, we're going to do a smaller bag with baling twine, so I already have my rope made. And we're also going to do it with cloth, so I already have my cloth rope made. This is just the regular baling twine rope that I showed in a different video, so you can refer to that for making the rope, again with the loop at the end. So for all the ropes, we want the loop at the end. Again, the frame is the mat frame, so it is in a previous video also if you want to go back and figure out how I did the frame or just make your own. So for this smaller bag, we're actually only going to use a portion of the frame. And for the mat, I had the frame in the landscape position when I braided it or wove it. This one, I want to use it in the portrait position. Since I'm not going to use all of the frame because I want a smaller bag, I'm going to weave it in the portrait direction so that when I fold my bag over, it will be longer like this rather than long and short. It'll be more proportionate. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start in on the 15th nail from this right hand side, and my nails are spaced about 1 inch apart. Okay, so I'm going to start with my loop right there. I'm just going to eyeball it and come straight down and do my weaving. Going every nail up and down. You want it snug but not too tight. So in a minute we're going to actually be doing some backtracking here. I just want to show you how I will come to that point. So bear with me for the backtracking. And when I was braiding my rope, I was actually doing the weaving at the same time so that I would know how long that I needed my rope to be. Your projects are going to vary based on how tightly you braid and how tightly you want to weave it also. Okay, so here's my top corner piece, and I know from my count that I want to wrap around these 3 nails, so that would be my corner. So I know this is my corner. But what I did originally to know that this was where I wanted to stop is that I make sure, because when I weave, I go them 2 at a time. So I want to make sure I have an even number of these columns so that I can weave them properly. Okay, even number, so that's right. Now for the backtracking part for this project is that because we're going to be putting this shoulder strap all the way around the bag, I want to find a center point here in the beginning to start this, because I'm going to start the strap with the same loop that I start this rope with. So I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 17, 18, 22, 24, 26. Okay, so my middle pieces are going to be 13 and 14. You're going to want 12 on each side. Okay, so here's my middle. What I'm going to do is take the rope down to there. So here is what I started for my strap. This is actually 9 pieces of twine. And I don't want to use the knots in the strap. And so when we start the strap, we're going to be cutting these out and piecing everything back together. But for now, what I'm going to do is I have my loop in the strap, and I've just got this clamp on here to keep the braid tight, otherwise it would unravel. So what I want to do is I'm just going to take the bottom of these 2 pieces and string them through this beginning of the strap. Put it back on. Now, of course, I'm going to want it somewhere centered in here, which is a little tricky to find right now. You can eyeball it, or this notch in my frame is about center too, or we can measure it. So if we measure it from nail to nail, we have about 35 inches. Yeah, so somewhere right in here below the notch. And then what I'm going to use, since I'm considering my notch close enough, I'm just going to secure this for the time being with a clothespin as best as I can. Maybe a couple of clothespins. Okay, so let's go back to finishing the columns. Okay, again, I remember I'm at the top because I want the loop around the top nails. So now what I'm going to do is for my first 2, again, we're going back to exactly how I would have done the baling twine, the mat. I go over my first 2, just because I want to keep them secure. Now, as you've probably noticed, we don't have anything over on this other side to hook. That, again, is where the clothespins come in. So make sure that get a little bit of tightness here. And the consistency doesn't matter. Try to look at what you have over here and keep them about the same size. But when you're binding it off, it's really not going to matter that much. Clothespin kind of help it keep tight. I'm going to go around 2 and do the opposite this time. So we're going to go under these first 2. So when I am doing this, I'm just trying to kind of keep the rope all laying in the same direction so that it's not too jumbled and bulky. So not quite the same, but close enough. Twist the rope flat. Come around 2 more nails, same thing, overs and unders. Now, the end is a little tricky to work with because everything wants to keep pulling out from each other, but just so it requires a little bit of attention and making sure you are remembering where you're at and what's next. If you wanted a tighter weave, you could, for your bag, you could go every nail instead of every other nail. Of course, you're going to need more of a rope. And also, when we take the bag off of the mat, the weave is going to get tighter anyways as we're working with it. So I like to leave it a little looser when I'm weaving it so that when I take it off of the mat and it tightens up, it's still fairly easy to work with. If it was too tight, it would be more difficult to work with. This is getting a little more difficult to work with. I'm going to take another clothespin and just tighten things up a little bit. Okay, so as you can see, we're getting close to our strap here. I think I'm going to do one more above it, and then I will make the next one below it. Alright, so basically this, because it's going to be our shoulder strap, we can determine that this is actually our halfway point for the bag. So when we fold it over, our loops have to line up. We have to, because we'll be binding off loops from this side of the bag off with loops from this side of the bag. So how many ever loops we have on this side, we're going to have to match on the other side. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8, meaning that we're going to need to do 8 on the other side as well. Now don't let this push your weave down or you'll be off from your nails, because we want this tight in here anyways, and so now it just fits right between those two rows. And again, I just want to make sure that my rope is flat. Alright, so that's it. Now again, just trying to keep it out of your way. Okay, again, things are getting a little loose in here, so I'm going to take one of the clothespins and just put them together. Okay, so below here we have 1, 2, 3, we're working on our 4th loop now with 8. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We need 2 more. Last row. So this one may actually be counted in as the top row here because we have 17. So when we fold it over, we'll see how that works. So now I'm going to lay the frame down. Okay, so I got a piece of baling twine in a color not anywhere closely related to my mat and wove it along on these outside loops to be able to better keep my last two columns in place to save myself a lot of confusion at the end. So now what I'm going to do is bind off these top and bottom pieces so that I can fold it over to get my bag. I am going to bind off, right to left on both ends. So you hold the right one, the left one goes through it, and then which was the left becomes the right. So the left through the right comes the right. Okay, so that's it for this top row. I'm going to do the bottom and do it the same way. So this time I'm going to work this way so that the left hand one goes through my right hand one, becomes the left hand. So the right is through. Oops. That's when they start popping off, you gotta be more aware and cautious. Okay, this is our tail for the end. We'll take care of that after we fold it all together. Just going to put a clothespin here. To wrap up the strap and just put it in the center. Then I'm going to just lift it off. Okay, again, be careful for these outside pieces. Since my strap is here, I'm going to make the outside. I'm going to flip it over and fold it in half. Start with this side. Alright, these are my tops, so I'll just keep them together. These two top pieces, these two, we want pairs for this side binding. So we'll start with these two down here, and we're going to go the same way. We're going to just take them and push them through the pair above them. So these will be incorporated into the strap, so I'll just put them off right now. Now we'll come over to this side. Same thing. We're going to look for pairs, and we'll get this out, but first we're going to find our pairs. These two. These two. Okay, so this side I have an extra. It's okay, because he's just going to get woven in on his own. I have a few clothespins, and as I pull this out, just link them together so that I can find them. Okay, so these two, we'll do that one. These two, do these. Alright, again, this is the same as the other side, and that it will be incorporated into the strap. Alright, so here you have a bag. We just bound off the top individually and the sides together. We folded them off. And here is the beginning of our strap down here on the bottom. And that's what I will show you next.